Hello, this is Gene again. A little more update on what I've been talking about the last couple days. Uh, People not really watching my videos, but I just can't sit here and not say anything. We have one guy continually comments on me, and that's nice. At least somebody's listening to what I have to say. 30 or 40 years from now, if I'm still alive, which I probably won't be, but if we still have anything like YouTube and my channel will be out there, then go back and maybe they'll understand what I was talking about. Had some factual relevance. Um, it's rational, it's logical. It is not based on hate or racism or sexism or anything like that. It's just how I view the world and my experiences in it and the things I've seen and the places I've been and the jobs I've had and how very easily as a society we are moved. We're very, very malleable. Guys continually say that women are ones that are easy ones that you can just mold to whatever you want them to do, and that we've seen that in the Western world. Women are the ones that have allowed all this stuff to happen because how they vote. Now, again, when these uh, politicians run, they don't sit there and say we're going to flood your district with a bunch of migrants or illegals, but they're always more what they could say more compassionate, tolerable, than to things like that. And women in mass are kind of that way. They're more empathetic than men are. And you've seen many of these polls that if men had been voting the last 30 years, we would never had a Democratic Party president. It would have been all Republicans. Doesn't mean that they're better because they're not. They didn't fall the standards of their own charters of being a Republican. They just don't. Um, so many things have happened that you would have thought that the Republicans should have been marching every day or doing things like when Mr. Washington went to Wishington Carter, whatever it is. It's a Harry classic movie of years ago, and he just continually debated and debated and debated until he couldn't lose. He didn't lose the floor. They just have the little sound bites, and nothing really ever happens. So what we're talking about the last 2 days is now we're seeing this actual propaganda that's trying to force people in the West to be okay whatever Israel is going to do now, and they're using the the evidence or whatever of all these babies having their heads cut off, and these are things that everybody have used in the past to get sympathy before doing things. There's always this stuff about these people are gassing their citizens. They said it yesterday that Gaza, Hamas is gassing their own citizens. We heard this in Syria. I mean, recent years we've heard about this in all these areas, and they all go back to the same people and who actually gets benefit from it. Because overall, if we had this one thing where people came across the border, killed military targets, military individuals, and they went back to Gaza, and then Israel went back in and did a proportional response. Nobody would really care in this country. We wouldn't have our aircrafts out in the Gulf, or is it a Mediterranean? It could be both, I guess. We'd have a presence there, but they leaked this story out there that not only were they killing elderly people and fathers and mothers and kids, that they also were decapitating babies, and that is like that one thing that we can't allow, right? So we're going to give them carte blanche to do whatever they want to do, and that means killing civilians and all that stuff. And the question is, it doesn't really matter if you have enough. If the media believes it, if you believe what the media is telling you, then that's all they really need. And you can see already the backtracking that says, oh, people are upset because it's maybe not true that they actually decapitated babies, but still they killed, the Holocaust survivors and kids and all that stuff. That still should be enough for me to just do whatever, just carbon bomb the city and kill 2 million people. And these are the same people that come out. They had, when I first talked about this, they said they're going to be lists out of those who will not support Israel's cause in this. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'm going to be on a list because I'm questioning the response to this. I mean, obviously, if I was in Israel and I was a Jew, I probably want the same type of response. But I think I'd want it to be proportional. I don't think I want to kill everybody. I mean, we heard what Mr. Greenback said from ADL, said that basically every Jewish life is worth at least 40 of Jews, of 40 of Japanese, compared what happened to one of the bombs in World War II, the nuclear devices going off and killing 40,000 in an instant. And he compared that to what happened. And you can see that the numbers are actually going down. We heard right away it was like 100,000 or 1,000. And now we're finding like 2,000 or 1,000 on both sides, or 1,000 between military casualties and civilians. It's still bad, of course, but it is what it is. So they already they're pushing this narrative. You can't talk like this. And I'm like, you know what my narrative is? That all these people now that are coming saying that Israel should basically put them in the sea, that's what I know. I know where their loyalty leads. These are a lot of people in this country that are American Jews, and they've shown themselves for what they are. They clearly have a loyalty just to Israel before us. And all those things that we had 5-6 years ago, and of course it was under Trump, and probably at the end of Obama's reign as well. They had these little. First, they were just, when Congress gets together and they have this edict, or they have this nice little thing. It has no real power, but it's about anti-Semitic type stuff, and it said you can't question anybody that has basically an Israel passport. That you can't question their loyalty to the United States or to Israel. I can, because I know it. I can see it. I've had experiences with it. I have, my son dated a woman for a long time that was there. What they talk about that in their synagogues, this is not in fucking Jerusalem. This is in Cocoa Beach, and what they talk about and where their money goes to. Their loyalty is clearly to Israel, because they think they're the chosen people of God, and that is God's home. So they clearly think this. They clearly think that they're chosen people. They clearly think that they're superior to other races. And we just let it go. And then we don't look at what they actually say in their books. And then we sit there and we pray for Israel, we pray for Jews and all this stuff. And that's great, but you should really look at what their books are. And if somebody's actually a practicing Jew, like Ben Shapiro, you know what it says about Israel, or excuse me, Jesus, and how he's dying in hell. And I mean, there's a reason why that in this country in the 1900s, that Jews had problems with a lot of people in the United States, and it was based on religious stuff, because we believe in the Bible that Jews killed Jesus. Now, it's part of the whole story, right? In order to get to where we're going to be now, Jesus has to die and has to come back at the third day, and then everything, it shows that he's God and all that stuff, and it takes away our sins and all that stuff. So that's all part of the plan, and that means the Jews had to be involved with that, like Judas was involved with it as well by selling Jesus out. So you're always going to have that. But I don't, you believe what you believe, but I'm just saying that the people who actually study this stuff, that are actual religious Jews, believe this stuff, and they believe that Christians are basically cattle. But they won't tell that to your face. But when they tell me that I'm going to be on a list because I'm not questioning what happened, clearly something happened. But if they continually have this PSYOP, which is what it is, and make it more and more worse than it possibly could be, because they want the entire world to be on their side, because they have to have that. The victim mentality of these people is just huge. They have not really suffered anything really in the last 70 years. And I have questions about that. I mean, it's just not logical and rational that many people died in gas chambers. Anyway, I mean, I talked about this. It's somewhere on my YouTube channel. You can probably find it. I call it the green pill. And now I've had a lot of conversations with guys that actually did this stuff, revisionists. David Cole, who was on Phil Donahue in the 70s and 80s. We had these debates all the time. He was a young man back then. He's about the same age as me now. He's a little bit older, maybe. But we've had these conversations through DM on Twitter and stuff, and I don't 100% believe everything, but he has a lot of background information on this. And he clearly doesn't say it's 6 million. You know, it's somewhere between 2.5 to 2.6, but that's not just gassing. And that we were told this stuff, and when I was in high school about this, that the narrative was that Hitler had an order to gas 6 million Jews because they love that number. And if you actually just do a little bit of research on this, you know that that number means stuff. And they said that in World War I, that 6 million Jews are being displaced, or going to be killed. This is something they've always used. It's something part of their numerology that they have. And it's a very, very important number to them. So it won't be shocking if you'll see it later on about this number as well. But get back to what's in the modern times, because this is all related. Because they will still say what Hamas said is like what the Germans did, that they have these little, what are they called? Like their SS would go in and grab the Jews and then take them to Auschwitz and then gas them. You know, this is the same thing. You know, they would kill the kids and take their heads off or stuff like that. You know, and then so this, the job I had before in the Air Force, before I moved to Florida, talks about there's different things that you use that are called PSYOPs, and how you do it, and how you can actually try to change the nation that you're trying to influence. We try to do this in Iraq. Doesn't really work because Muslims have been around. They believe what they believe. They've been doing this for millennia, right? So it's hard to change their mind. We've tried to use Western values in China and stuff like that. You know, they're more capitalistic and stuff, and you think that eventually they're not going to assimilate to West culture, but they'll be more friend than foe. We said that with Soviet Union as well. So and now they're Russia, and so they're all more capitalistic and stuff. And this is something we try to use, or just put in like, I mean, obviously the Vietnam people did this as well. We'd have a woman that would be on the radio that would be saying, you know, you Americans, you need to do something different. You know, it's all PSYOP, and it's all happened. I mean, in the last 10 years, it's all started like what happened in Syria, when all these people went to Europe after that. You know, we were told then that Assad was gassing his own people. Now we know all this shit is bullshit, and then you have to realize who actually runs Western media. It's the same people, and if I say that, it's anti-Semitic. But all you got to do is look at the CEOs of these companies, and you realize all these companies, there's 5 or 6. They're not 300,000 of them. There's 5 or 6 in the Western world, because they control all of the information, and they disseminate it the way they want to do it. So that they come on these shows and have these panels, and they all have the same, pretty much the same belief system. They might be one further off, less radical than the other, but they're all basically the same. And they trumpet the mainstream, the narrative, the government's narrative, and they continually trumpet. There's nothing on mainstream media that looks any differently than anything else. They're all basically the same. It's kind of like the parties in the system. There's 3 or 4 subjects that they don't really agree on, but the rest of them they agree with. And when it comes to Israel, they all agree. But we know in this country, if you ask before this happened about what's going on in Palestine, we all thought that it was pretty much not a good thing, because it really is kind of an open air prison. And those people did not deserve that fate, because most of these people are under 20 years old. And that's the thing. When you have the young people already can be radicalized, but they're radicalized against their neighbors who have put them here. I don't think that's radicalized. I think that's saying what's going on right in front of their face, that this is what it is. And yeah, they might. I don't think it's really a religious thing. I don't think it's between Muslims and Jews. I really don't. I think it's because of what happened here. And people don't, it's like they do not want to have this conversation. And when people say there is no whataboutism here, you know, it's like it's either good or bad. And it has to be, the only thing that's good is Israel. The only one that can be bad is Palestine. And they don't look back at the history of this and what's happened. And they just think that, I mean, when I say, you know, this didn't come from out of the blue. It's the same thing in 9/11. It did not come from out of the blue. When we were sitting over there and dropping bombs on civilians, and conservative estimate in Iraq, Pakistan, or excuse me, Afghanistan, I'd say at least 1 million civilians were killed. We did this. And these are Muslims. Why do you think they would love us? Regardless of whatever their religious text believes. You know, their civilization's been going on a lot longer than people in the West, even Europe in a lot of ways. And some of our standards came from that side. I mean, it kind of did, you know. The Caucasian mountains is kind of almost always into Europe and Turkey and all that stuff, and we're kind of like all from that area. So we're kind of like more related than people want to understand. It doesn't mean that what they do is right. I mean, there was a time in Afghanistan and Pakistan it was more modern, I guess, under Western type of how you would look at them. Iran was the same way. Women didn't have to wear the burqa and all that. And they were going to school and all that stuff. And then the religious people came back in. I guess you call radical religious, and they bring it all back, like the Taliban. And then we are supposed to change all this stuff. I think when certain people see things that are more degenerate, they do the other way as bad as they could. You know, Hitler did this. I mean, this is nothing new in the history of the United States or the world. So the idea that you can't even say that when a congresswoman, which I do not like, the squad people, and they have probably just a little formatted response to whatever happened, and they said they want violence to stop on both sides, and then people get so upset, and then Dave Rubin again, another American Jew who looks as white as me. There's a whole nother video about that, the assimilation of Jews in Western Christian culture and how much influence that they have. But anyway, and I'll talk about him for about other issues as well. And then he's showing a video of somebody went in, I guess some of the Hamas people had a camera with them, and they were killing people, right? And he's basically saying that these people support that. As bad as they are in policy, I don't think that they are for killing civilians. I just don't believe that. And I think that when you go this way, and he basically says deport them, or I'm like, is this the only time we're going to be upset? I mean, how many billions of dollars or millions of people have come across the border the last 10 years? And now he's upset because his people are abused. There's 600 that got killed, civilians. I don't even know if it's that much. We'll find out if we ever know exactly what. Because what happens is with the PSYOP and the media is that they put all this headlines out there. Sometimes we'll see some videos of it. You know, that the whole thing about the little baby on the beach, and people said, "Oh my God, in Europe we have to bring him in now." Remember all that video of all those women waiting for him, welcoming refugees, and then we find out very soon that all these places become rape capitals of the world. But they still, there are so many examples where these people just continually allow this to happen, and I'm like, where are the men? So when people say, "Jane, you shouldn't really talk about this," no one really listens to you anyway. I don't care. If I see somebody, and I told the guy on YouTube, I said, when I see young men especially, I have this conversation with them. A lot of them they're more on the Palestine side, not because they hate Jews. It's just that they think that what's going on there, based on what they've known, because they're more social leftist fears, so they kind of like support that. Because they don't think humans should be able to go anywhere, and we're all human on this. There's no borders. They believe all that. So anyway, so when you talk about your psychology, the baby on the thing that all of a sudden opens up Europe to 5, 6, 7, 8 million Africans, and this was all basically a lie. The white hats saying all these people dying in Syria. These were all stage incidences. You can see it now on YouTube and stuff. You'll see things that they were actually they would stand up afterwards and they were fine. They were like they were dead, and then they would show up. This is all part of this, and you have to understand who's all behind it, because only one person gets any benefit out of this, because there's only one state in that whole entire area that's not Muslim, and that's Israel. And they think, based on what they already believe, that they're clearly the superior people, that they want to have all this. And they want the United States to continually defend that and pay for it. And in their little back rooms and stuff, they laugh at us. The idea that they're our friend is laughable. It's not. They've just look up USS Liberty, and there are a lot of other issues. Now, when you go down that rabbit hole, none of what you're going to say, not everything you're going to see is going to be factual, because there are actual anti-Semitic people that hate Jews just because they're Jews. I just don't like the Israel and what they're pushing to us and the people in the Western world, because the people at the top in Israel believe that Palestinians should just go to Europe. So then they would have everything. And just look, there are many, go on Twitter and just look how small Israel was and how much it's got bigger and bigger in the last 50 years. And they keep pushing the Palestinians into the sea. And on the north part, you have Hezbollah, which is in the West Bank, very small, but right northeast, I think, of Tel Aviv, I guess, or Israel. And then on the other part is where the Gaza Strip is, and that's under Hamas. Now, Hezbollah is not as radical, but they'll do shit as well. And they have Iran probably has help with them. So this is the issue. The thing is that it doesn't really matter that whether or not the baby's heads were cut off. It's already out there in the ether. So we never would have put our aircraft carriers there, because now we have to defend him from whatever Iran's going to do. So we're checking Iran from not doing anything to blow up the entire area. So they get exactly what they want. So there are more and more reports that says they knew that this was coming. So I think that they made a decision that says we don't really care if some of our people get killed. This is what we want. We want the end of it to be this. And if you question their motive or the idea that that actually happened, then you're anti-Semitic and you need to be deported and you need to be on a list. These guys are so about free speech and everything like that. Once you talking about their own people, all of a sudden that changes, and it's only for them. It's like if I have the same thing saying that I want America to be back to what it was when I was born. I want 90% white, and I want to be super majority white. Then you know what that means. I'm racist. Well, I just want it to be what it used to be. It doesn't make it better or worse, but we understand that multiculturalism does not work. Because at the end of the day, you always go back to your tribe. And that's exactly what these American Jews are doing. They're going back and they just can't stop it. They have to continually say rhetoric things and stuff that's just so crazy, over the top stuff, like David Rubin or Ben Shapiro. Now, Ben Shapiro has been saying this for 10 years. He thought we should have blown out Iran 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And he hasn't really changed that at all. And I just forget guys like David Rubin. He's had a lot of people on his show, and one of them was Milo Manalopoulos, and he said something like, "We run the world. We are we're Jews. We run the world. We run this. We run this. We run this. And Dave knows this. So how can you ever trust the media when they are reporting on Israel and what their motives are? And there's way too many people in this country my age, especially white guys, that will defend Israel because I guess they think that they have to defend Israel because that'll get them into heaven. I'm just like, read the Talmud. I mean, seriously, people, they don't look at Christians as their friends. They use us as what we're here for, to serve them, and they believe this. So. There's so much here, and how it's very easy to change. I mean, we changed everything after 9/11 and stuff like that. Right away, we're going to go after somebody. We went to Iraq for no real reason. To the point I could, Afghanistan, you can go find him. And there's a lot of intel that says that there were other people behind that attack, and they could have been Israeli. Um, it's all part of the confusion that they have as well to us to divide ourselves. But I can just say that's at the very lowest area. Most of the shit that we're going through right now has been orchestrated by the same people. They want this division in the West because they're the small minority of people, but they have so much control, and they realize if anybody really woke up, and I'm talking about the black man, the white man in the West, that their reign would be over. Now, people think they have a reign. Yes, they do. They control our Congress in the United States. They control our president. If they want something, it's given to them. They have laws that have been enacted and basically destroyed our free speech. You cannot be anti-Semitic. You can't. You have to sign stuff in certain federal jobs saying that you will not support free Palestine efforts. Just happened the other day. A law guy, and I think he was a student, but he was like the president or something like that. He put a post out there saying he supports a free Palestine, and they expelled him, and they take him off his little thing. So you don't really have free speech in this country if you talk against the cult of the Israelis or what they believe or their Holocaust narrative. You will be shut down. So even yesterday, Kyle Rittenhouse, from the killing down those three guys that were trying to go after him. Clearly, I don't think he should go to jail. I think that the jury got it right. But apparently, Nick Fuentes was supposed to be at the same place that he was, and he just denounced him. So I'm like, okay, I think he killed like 2 Jewish people anyway. But anyway, I didn't want to go down that about who runs the pedophilia rings, who runs pornography stuff, all that stuff, porno movies, Hollywood, the media. Just put them all on. They're all run by the same people. And it was the same way in Germany. And I had this. Well, let me talk about Kyle. So I actually responded to him. I said, Nick will not bite you, man. Seriously, he won't. I said he probably will give you some good ideas. You don't have to believe the mainstream media and stuff like that. And I got a lot of actual impressions on that. People responded to that, and that's good. So he got some backwater or whatever. He's doing well. He's doing okay. And I have nothing. He's a young kid. I'm not gonna. But he shouldn't care. If somebody says he was in the same town as Nick, so yeah, he has his right. He's got a First Amendment right to say what he wants to say. And there's like a little meme out there. Larry Elder had out there too, and there was a little thing that, and on the side it's got Nick saying he's a Holocaust denier, and it's got a Nazi thing on him. I don't think that Nick has ever worn that. I don't think he ever won the swastika on his thing. I know maybe Nick should sue Larry Elder. These are good people. But they just. There's a part that you're allowed to talk about, but don't talk about Israel. Don't talk about the Jews. Don't talk about that little story about 70 years ago or 80 years ago, because if you do that, it's like, those Hamas people came in, they killed all the Holocaust survivors. I'm thinking that's 97 years ago, or wait, 87 years ago? 77 years ago. They have to be babies, I guess. Anyway, again, obviously there's probably some left. Then you have to find out that most of the people that claims that are not. But anyway, or you're killed of that. You're like a grandson of it, and you're still somehow a survivor of it. It's like, okay. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that so much. Something went in my mind, and I probably lost it. Talking about Kyle, then something went in my mind, and I lost it. I guess there's so much here. And how we allow it to happen. And FDR, he interned Japanese people. Hitler did the same thing with the Jews. It's just interesting who actually reports on this and what actually happens. Most people that died in the camps were clearly died from typhus or starvations. The reason why they died of that, the starvation, is because the Allies bombed the trade routes, the supply routes. You couldn't get any food into them. It doesn't mean it wasn't. Obviously, you don't do stuff like that, but they've used this to have some sort of power over everybody else in the West for a long time, and it's all related. That's the people don't understand. This is all related back to that because they will bring it back, and they'll invoke it every time something happens. And they did it during this. This is the worst thing since the Holocaust. It's like it's the SS. They're the same thing. You know, the Hamas is the same. You know, they're subhuman. They're animals. They're this and that. Well, some of the individuals probably are, and every country has the same type of people. But it didn't come out of the blue. It just didn't. And people have to understand that, and we should be able to talk about that, and not all of a sudden be told on a guy that's got 2 or 3 million subscribers that you should be on a list by thinking that you're not going to go along with the company line about Israel has to be great, that they have a right to defend themselves. Well, what about Palestinians? Don't they have any rights at all to be human? Anyway, I think I'm going to stop right there. Maybe I'll keep this going on. It's interesting subject. There's a lot of things. I mean, this is going on for like 16 years as far as what's going on. When they annexed everything and they made the Palestinians be there. You can't think that people are not going to be upset about what's happened to them. And the media and everybody continually supporting Israel, even though there are a lot of people in the Western world that support the idea of a free Palestine. But as a Western, I don't want all of them to come into my country. I don't want them to go in Europe. We've already seen that there's a lot of influence that Muslims have in these areas. And they're not, the idea that they're here, they're not going to do anything to us. Of course they will. Because at the end of the day, they think that Britain, and the United States are funding all this. So we are the great Satan. So they're going to do shit here as well. I'm not saying the entire world should be annexed from each other, but we're getting to the point where something's going to happen. And all it really matters at this point is the breadth of it. Does it allow us to get involved? And do they understand it if we get involved? And Iran has the capability to launch a nuclear missile, what that means. That Turkey is going to get involved, and possibly Russia and China is going to get involved, and what that could mean for the rest of the world. And it's all based on a small nation state of about 8 million people and a small cabal of people that think that they're the chosen people, that everybody should bow down to them because they've been oppressed for the last 3,000,000 years, according to Ben Shapiro, and they have every right to defend themselves against anything. And that just doesn't mean just Hamas. That means you can't say anything about them. You cannot even have the question of whether their loyalty is for as an American or as a Jew or as Israeli or anything. You cannot do that. Because if you say that, that means obviously you're Hitler. At this point, I don't give a shit. I had this conversation, I was going to tell you, my son, he's special needs. And every now and then I like to just do the whole Roman salute to him, just to make him laugh. Every now I'm watching like a Hitler documentary, and I don't watch the mainstream ones, but I watch, The Greatest Story Never Told. That's a great one. And realize that this man was very accomplished person, and also complicated, I can't say the word. But his story is not just as an evil man. It's not. What he did for Germany was remarkable, and it should be looked at that way. But my son, all they know is because they got the indoctrination that you get in the Western world, that he was this evil monster and he wanted to kill all Jewish people because they were Jewish. Well, some of that's kind of true. In the Mein Kampf, he blames them, but he was only talking about the elites of that, because he had 100,000 in his own army that were Jewish. He had people that was in his staff that were Jewish. There's so much to this. And then you compare him to Churchill and the shit he did and what he believed in, and he hated the Jews as well. and FDR and interning the Japanese. This is not the idea that Hitler was so much worse than anybody else is absolute. It's wrong. It's laughable. Um, and of course, he has some of the responsibility too, because he wanted the Jews were supposed to leave to go to Palestine in the late 30s. So he was already started this whole thing back then to get them out of Germany. So it's more than it's always never black and white. We're talking about historical figures, or this incident or this event that's going on. It's not black and white. It's not good and evil. The individual acts of these people, regardless of what side they're on, that's what you can judge is whether it's good or evil. If somebody walks in there and their mandate was to go into, let's say, capture for like ransom or something like that, and they decide to go and rape people, and this happens all the time in war, or end up killing them and killing elderly people and all that stuff, or babies, that's an individual war crime for that person. If you find out that they were told above that that's what they're supposed to do, then that person will be hanged at a trial at some point. These are war crimes. But it's nothing, to be honest, it's nothing any new. This is kind of like been going on since the Vikings would go in and do the same thing. These are white people. or the Zulus would do the same thing. They would take the woman and rape them and breed with them and just, this is what they would do. Crazy, we see it on video, the whole paragliding thing. That's craziness. I don't understand. I mean, I don't think it's a good idea for them. They're not going to get. It's really stupid. It's almost like that the Israelis got them to go in their own little. They trapped them in, kind of like January 6th. That the guys that walked into the Capitol, it's all part of a plan, because we know that Nancy Pelosi and all that stuff didn't want to put any more cops there, and they wanted all this to happen to look bad, and it kind of like did exactly what they wanted to do. And I think Israel knew that this was going to happen, and they allowed it to happen. There are so many books, so many movies, so many documentaries about 9/11, so many movies that says that that's an inside job. Pearl Harbor is the same way. We had some idea that might happen, but we didn't trust the fact that Japanese could actually have that much long-range bombers that would come in and do that. But we knew it was going on. We've heard the whole thing that FDR actually had the speech done before it happened. So I'm just saying that when we talk about the government, when the government wants to get what they want, they will more than every day, they're more willing to kill their own people to get to where they want to go. When we went into World War II, we were just getting out of the Great Depression. There was a lot of lingering effects of that, but we got in the war in 1941 later on, right? But before that, we were helping, and for a while there, we were kind of helping both sides. But that helped our factories, and of course, we went into the war. Obviously, it made even more, and we made more money from it, and it opened up new businesses and all that stuff. So it's all related, and you just can't look from one source and say that's just the God's honest truth. You have to always look at other things. Just because it's right away you hear this information, when you don't see it, that might be something that's behind it that's not real. Do I think it's possible that they went and killed and decapitated babies? I don't understand the reason behind that, unless it's some sort of religious thing. I don't. Now, it's not rare in the Middle East in the last 5,000 years that this does not happen. Killing the firstborn baby. This shit's happened, right? There's rituals that are involved as well. I'm not saying that as all, but just understand who it actually benefits. Now they know that Americans, the civilians in America, are going to be behind it so much that they can do pretty much whatever they want to do. And when these talking heads on the right especially sit there and say, just carpet bomb it, and don't give a shit about the 2 million people that are there, because where can they go? Oh wait, no, but you don't want Europe to be overrun by migrants. But now, what are you going to do with all these people? You're clearly not going to say that they should stay there while this happens, right? You want them to leave, right? So where are they going to go? Who's going to support that? Who's going to fund that? The same people don't. I mean, you there is no there is no there is nothing. You can't there it doesn't go right. You have a wall here in the United States and you don't want to fund anybody across the border, which I'm with. I don't want that either. But over here, emotion and all that stuff and tribal nature and just be I just want these people to be honest. They felt it as an affront to them because it's their people being attacked. Fine. But don't tell me that I don't have to say. Seems to me maybe your loyalty is more to Israel than it is to as to being American. And don't tell me that I can't say that and maybe go to jail for saying it because you're supposed to be about this free speech bullshit. Because you all say this, I'm a free speech absolutist, but it's not when we're talking about your fucking people. All right, I'm going to stop right now. That's 40 freaking minutes. You guys have a good day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.